Hello everyone, and a very lovely afternoon to you, the people of Rezzed, and also the people who are watching on Twitch. A reminder that at 5 p.m. we have another session following this about Mafia 3, so don't miss that if you're interested. And a note before we start, there will be time for questions later, so please think of some while you're watching the session. There'll be a microphone on X marks the spot in the middle there. I'm Bertie from Eurogamer, and it is my great pleasure to introduce Cassie Arsenal and Dan Brewer from Creative Assembly to talk about Halo Wars 2.
All right, here you go. Great, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. Today we're here to discuss how Halo Wars 2 came to be and why it's an RTS for everyone. First, we'll start off with some introductions. I'm Cassie. I'm a senior designer at Creative Assembly, and I've been in the industry for about 9 years now. I've had the great pleasure to work on a lot of games in many different genres, and it's so wonderful to get to come to Creative Assembly, work on strategy in such a giant IP. My role on Halo Wars 2 is that I designed the Blitz game mode.
Hi, I'm Dan. I oversaw the gameplay design for multiplayer and campaign. Senior designer as well, similar kind of experience. Working for CA is awesome. I really enjoyed it, and the opportunity to work on Halo Wars 2 was pretty cool. So a little bit about Creative Assembly. We're a leading strategy game developer in Southern England, down in sleepy Horsham. We're best known for our long-withstanding franchise Total War, and also the award-winning Alien Isolation as well. So we actually celebrate our 30th anniversary this year, and we continue to grow and hire all kinds of talent across all of our projects. So Creative Assembly is owned by Sega. It has a wealth of experience in creating high-quality RTS titles, making us the ideal partner to develop Halo Wars 2. And fans have been asking for Halo Wars 2 for a long time, since Halo Wars 1 was released. 343 Industries were patiently but eagerly waiting for the right team to partner with. And both 343 and Creative Assembly are thrilled to be working together, with us at Creative Assembly really honored and excited to be adding new content and new experiences to the Halo universe, which is a very, very cool honor.
Right. Well, to understand Halo Wars 2, let's start from the beginning. So, just want to see a quick little show of hands. Who's ever heard of Halo before? That's what I thought. Pretty much everybody. Whew, let's make it easier. So, as you all probably know, Halo is a huge intellectual property. It spans a dozen games, it spans book series, and it's even dipped into film and TV media. The first Halo game, Halo Combat Evolved, shipped as an Xbox exclusive in 2001. It and all of its sequels, they're first-person military science fiction shooters. But you might be surprised. You might be surprised to know that Halo was conceived as an RTS first, back in 1999. Real-time strategy finally joined the Halo lineup in 2009 with Halo Wars. It's a Halo prequel exploring the galaxy 21 years before we first meet Master Chief. Its clean controls and attention to detail established it as the best-selling console strategy game to date. And that brings us to this year and the recent release of Halo Wars 2. We've got a quick video to show you. So, Halo Wars 2 is a direct sequel to Halo Wars. It has similar controls and game modes, and it's intended to appeal to the long-standing Halo Wars strategy fans. Today, it's available on both Xbox One and Windows 10. This is the next chapter in Halo's epic story. 343 Industries and Creative Assembly partnered together to introduce a whole new faction and a new major villain who may soon shape the future of Halo. So, what do we mean when we say an RTS for everyone? At Creative Assembly, we love making strategy games. Halo Wars 2 gave us the opportunity to reach new audiences, people who love sci-fi, who love Halo, and who play on console as well as on PC. These are a few key ways that we achieved that goal. The campaign of Halo Wars tells a deep Halo story that'll appeal to fans and newcomers alike. There are multiple ways to play, from hour-long death matches to 15-minute stronghold sieges. You can choose from iconic leaders with unique playstyles to focus your gameplay and teach you important skills. Finally, we created Blitz. It's a new game mode and a unique twist on real-time strategy that streamlines combat, replaces base building and tech leveling with card game mechanics. Starting with the story, Halo Wars 2 has a rich and varied campaign. It appeals to fans returning to Halo Wars to find out what happened next and how it might shape the continuing Halo epic. It's 28 years after the events of the last Halo Wars, continuing the story of the Spirit of Fire in the current Halo timeline. Captain Cutter and his crew wake up to an uncertain galaxy. They have to stop a new brute-centric enemy, the Banished, from taking control of the Ark and using it as a weapon against humanity. Atriox is their leader, the galaxy's newest supervillain. He has risen from the ashes of the Covenant War to exert his might and elevate his species. You, as the commander of the UNSC, clash with his armies and defend the Ark. Atriox is a new type of Halo villain. He's smart, he's strategic, a real general. He's determined to forge his own destiny, separate from the Forerunner ideals of the Mantle. I don't want to reveal any other spoilers here with details, but it's a really wonderful campaign, and you don't have to be an RTS pro to enjoy it. I'll hand off to Dan now to walk you through some more details about our game modes.
Cool. So let's talk about the range of experiences that Halo Wars 2 has to offer through game modes. When it comes to single-player experiences, players can discover the epic Halo story told in the campaign mode, which Cassie's just talked about. They can also test their skills versus our awesome AI players in Skirmish. Our AI players are designed to be as human-like as possible. One of our design objectives was to not have them cheat in any way. So there's no kind of extra resources, there's no health cheats, they can't see through the fog of war. If they want to know what you're building, they've got to scout out and look at your base in the same way a human player would. So the reason we did this is this allows for a much more useful learning experience. So you learn actual useful skills that you can then transfer across the multiplayer gaming if you want to. So you can apply those straight to human players, which is really useful. Players also love teaming up in co-op modes. So we ensure that Halo Wars can be played cooperatively in a few different ways. From experiencing the campaign with a friend, which is fully co-op compatible, to teaming up to take on AI players in Skirmish. We also have a matchmaking playlist that helps you find new friends, new players to play with against AI players. So that's all the fun of multiplayer with none of the guilt, and hopefully none of the rage quitting as well. So we wanted to find a way where players who want different multiplayer experiences could still enjoy Halo Wars 2. It was important to us as designers and gamers to not make compromises to some of the more traditional gameplay. The best way to approach this was to create game modes which cover the kind of experiences that players want from RTS games. For the standard multiplayer modes, we ended up with Strongholds, Domination, and Deathmatch. There's also Blitz as well. Cassie will talk about that a little bit later. So first up, we have one of our new modes, Strongholds. This is 50-minute long matches. Resources are infinite. Tech levels are unlocked automatically. And all the player has to really focus on is building armies and clashing them together. So this mode is great for players who want to jump straight in with all of the toys without needing to learn too many systems like economy management or tech level upgrades, that kind of stuff. It's really similar to how a lot of RTS players really like to jump into custom matches and just give themselves lots of resources or use cheats to unlock units. So instead of them having to do that, now we have a game mode specifically made for those guys who just want to jump in, which is fantastic. So Domination is our next game mode. Domination is trying to take some of the initial pressure off of rushes, base rushes at the start of the game, and focus the players and their fighting back on the map instead of around their starting bases. So the reason is a lot of new players find having their starting base attacked earlier on in the game or destroyed earlier in the game really demoralizing and quite depressing. So Domination gives you free base defenses, which help deter some of those rushes for the earlier stages. Again, focus it back on the map. So the capture point mechanics also help the games of Domination finish a lot quicker than deathmatch games. So it's really good for players who have kind of 20 to 30 minutes, but don't really have a 5-hour long deathmatch marathon play session. Speaking of deathmatch, it's here. It's the traditional RTS game mode. It's super simple. You destroy the enemy. That's it. It's really easy to get into, but it's also the mode that offers the most brutal depth of strategy. So from units turning up at your bases within the first few minutes to the epic battles that go back and forth for hours. Deathmatch is a fan favorite for the sheer variety of battles. We started our multiplayer beta back last year, and we started off with domination. And fans were like, where's Deathmatch? They wanted it so badly. But luckily, Deathmatch was on for the second week, and people loved having it back. So to sum it up, there's a game mode for everybody. Whether you want to theorize on the best Deathmatch build for Anders, or you want to kick back and have a blast with leader powers and strongholds. No matter how much or how little time you have, there's something for everyone. So the next section, leaders and playstyles play a huge part in determining your strategy and tactics when you play Halo Wars 2. Players start off and they select a leader to play before they go into a match. When you select a particular leader, it gives you access to unique units and unique leader powers that only that particular leader can use. Because of the unique units and powers, leaders add another layer of strategy on top of the core playstyles. So speaking of core playstyles, here's a rough diagram. Rushing is about the early game. It's about trying to catch your opponent out. It's about pressure and aggression. It can be quite scary for new players, but it's part of the game. It's part of the strategy. So greedy playstyles are about taking risks and sacrifices to kind of hopefully pay off later. So something like building a cheeky second base in the corner of the map, filling it with resource buildings, no turrets, and just hoping no one finds it to kind of give you that resource boost later on in the game. Defensive plays are about surviving your opponent with superior defenses and slowly expanding your iron grip across the map. So lots of turrets, and kind of units around your bases to stop any rushes coming near you. They're also designed to interact with each other. Okay, so rush tactics generally beat greedy players that don't invest in an army or defenses. Greedy players should generally defeat defensive players because defensive players, whilst they're sitting in their bases building turrets and armies that don't go anywhere, the greedy player is expanding across the map, grabbing all of the power points, the resource crates, and getting control of all of the map. Defensive players are really good and have an advantage against rush players. If you focus on your defenses early, if that rusher player turns up at your base and you've got 4 turrets, you're not going to be too worried. So it can put those guys in a poorer position, especially if the rushers have invested too much in their kind of their rushing force that die to turrets. So the various leaders across Halo Wars 2 can be played in all 3 playstyles, but because of their characteristics of their leader powers and their unique units, they might have advantages to each playstyle at various points of the game. So depending on the decisions that players make when unlocking leader powers, you can build leaders in slightly different ways. So Aatrox, for example, can be played in an aggressive, greedy rush, making the most of his invulnerability powers and discount on new bases. Or you can play Aatrox in a much more pure defensive playstyle, maximizing on defensive heals, countermeasures, and base defenses discounts. So we have lots of different leaders that are expanded through DLC, and they all have a kind of a range of pros and cons across the different strategies. For example, Captain Cutter is one of our returning heroes from Halo Wars 1. He's really, really good at grabbing objectives. He has a couple of early game powers that give his basic troops veterancy advantages, speed upgrades, and capture things faster. So he's really good in the early game. So let's quickly compare about how leaders might affect those playstyles with 2 specific examples. Forge is a returning leader from Halo Wars 1, and his forces generally have a tough and slow characteristic. He has kind of lots of buffs that make things have high defense, maybe slow speed. But Shipmaster plays very differently. Shipmaster is all about teleportation and stealth, so he's really good at kind of hit and run raiding attacks. I recorded some footage of their leader powers, so let's take a look at the short video. So Shipmaster's teleport is fantastic. I can take these suicide grunts and teleport them straight into enemy units. Boom, done. Normally suicide grunts are super slow, so that's really useful. Shipmaster is also great for getting his units out of trouble with his healing teleportation spell. So these guys are in trouble, let's teleport them back to my main base, and there's also a healing circle there to keep them fresh. Displacement is one of his key abilities. You can use it on enemy units. It's a teleportation spell. So I can cast it on these enemy units rushing me or attacking me, and push them out of the way and finish off the stragglers. You can also use it offensively. It's awesome. So Forge, whilst defensive, does have a couple of offensive abilities. His scatter bomb's great. It's one of the highest capability midline damaging powers. But because it's done over a long time and it's fairly inaccurate, you've got to be quite lucky to get that maximum damage. One of his key abilities, Combat Salvage, is where if you activate it, any ground vehicles that you lose will be then instantly rebuilt at your base. So I've lost my Grizzly tank there. Boom, it's exploded. But it's okay. It's back in my base for free. This helps him keep it like a sustained attack. He's really, really unstoppable. Forge is about Grizzlies. That's his unique unit. It's basically like a Scorpion tank on steroids. It's quite scary. So what's better than 2 Grizzlies? 5 Grizzlies. Here's a power we can drop them in anywhere he wants. It's super cool. So that's a really quick taste onto how the leaders differentiate with each other. You'll see online there's lots of coverage of the various different leader powers. My favorite particularly is playing as Aatrox. I love playing as Aatrox and stealing enemy bases. So my kind of strategy is online in Deathmatch, I start off by choosing the building and defenses leader powers, and then I try to build a new base right outside of my opponent's starting base. If I'm lucky, I can pull this off and kind of build some defenses, and they're kind of trapped in their starting base, unable to do anything. It works really well in 1v1, but in 3v3 games, I often get ganged up on, and it doesn't really work, which is kind of embarrassing.
Right, and to counter that, my favorite leader is actually Anders. I play her pretty greedy. I tend to go for a fast tech strategy with her, and I'll push to tier 2 as fast as I can so I can build air units. As soon as I have the resources to do it, I also unlock the Sentinels, her unique unit that she has, and I can build those straight from my main base instead of having to build extra buildings. And with that, they're an air unit, and I can build a bunch of air pads, push out into the map, and just dominate the skies with air. If I ever run into trouble, Anders is also great with good leader powers. A well-timed heal will help me survive, or I can lay down area denial with her arc defense, which creates long-lasting swarms of sentinels that I don't have to control.
So to summarize, we designed our leaders to add an additional layer of character on top of how you play Halo Wars 2. But there's some online games, MOBAs, for example, there's a range of characters. Same thing for us. There's a range of different characters that play in different ways. So any player can develop a range of strategies and tactics for any of the leaders. So you can really play the game your way. Cool, over to you.
Right. So Blitz. This is the last bit of our presentation, and we want to introduce you to Blitz. It's a new game mode, and it blends card game mechanics with traditional RTS combat. Blitz was conceived originally as an introduction for new players who have maybe never played strategy before or just aren't really know what to expect when they come, especially to the console version of Halo Wars 2. Over time, it's evolved into so much more than that, though. What we did with Blitz is we replaced the base building and scouting parts of Halo Wars 2 multiplayer in favor of short match lengths and a focus on unit positioning and counterplay to create a fast-paced arcade experience. A typical match of Blitz will only last 7 to 12 minutes. It's really great for bite-sized fun. In Blitz, every unit and leader power is represented by a card. Players will combine 12 of these cards into decks before entering a match. They can just sit out, get used to the units, have a look over the leader powers, and really just start to get familiar with the leaders, plan out their strategies in just a comfortable space. Then, when they enter the match, they can play those cards and deploy armies directly into battle. One of the key pillars for Blitz design is that cards are the most valuable object in this game. Timing a card play to introduce that unit or power onto the battlefield is the most strategic decision that you'll make. Let's take a quick look at Blitz. So as you can see, players can jump straight into the action. They can bring out tanks, scarabs, and all sorts of toys instantaneously. This really is a perfect introduction to RTSs. We've been hearing really great stories from our experienced players on the forums just how Blitz has drawn in their friends. They can contact them. They can say, hey, man, just come in and play some multiplayer with me. We can combo our skills. And these are people who've just normally never touched RTS before, and they're loving it. For those experienced players, they'll find surprising depth in the deck building side of Blitz, the strategies available to each leader, and how different decks can combo and complement each other in team games. One of the things unique to Blitz that's different from regular multiplayer is that the leaders have exclusive access to leader powers. In normal multiplayer, you have a lot of faction play, and there's a lot of shared resources in that respect. But in Blitz, we decided to focus a lot more on that deck building aspect. And so when you choose your leader, you're really choosing your deck and what type of play style you want. The cards in Blitz are the stars. We spent a lot of time making sure that they looked and felt as valuable as possible. Each card has a unique illustration, and the aesthetic is designed so that they wouldn't look out of place on the Bridge of the Spirit of Fire. You can collect new cards by completing daily challenges and unlock new strategies and new ways to play. Blitz can be played in a variety of team sizes. 1v1 is an intense duel of wits. You must build a dynamic, flexible deck that can counter anything your opponent can throw at you. 2v2 is our standard mode, where you partner up with another player and face off, usually playing decks that'll complement each other best so you can create epic combos. 3v3 is where the brawl happens. Players will throw everything that they have at each other. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to kind of end your day with a quick 10-minute match. And it's also a perfect environment to try out a new deck or a new playstyle without getting too much chaff from your partners. Lastly, solo players and friends who just want co-op enjoyment, they can engage in Blitz's firefight mode, where they'll craft decks designed to hold out against endless hordes of AI enemies for as long as possible. Firefight actually began as a training mode for Blitz, but we just had so much fun with it in testing that we decided to turn it into a real arcade horde mode, and it's just done really well. All in all, Blitz is an exciting new addition to our list of game modes. It's a real great experience for all skill levels.
So we know that RTS games can normally be quite intimidating. So that's why in Halo Wars 2, we believe we've provided a range of fun options and learning tools that anybody of any skill level can play and enjoy. If you haven't already played Halo Wars 2, we have demos, which are free, thankfully, on Windows 10 Store and on Xbox One. So please do try them out. They're available now. And we're also hiring as a studio. So we're hiring across a range of positions. For people looking to break into the industry, we've also just announced our 2017 traineeship program. Those traineeship roles are on our website alongside the other positions we have open right now. The traineeship roles they last a year, they're paid positions, and you have to work on the proper projects as well. We don't stick you to the side making coffee or anything like that. These are proper, really, really good roles, and we train you up and make you better at your discipline, which is really cool. So, we've got an hour left of EGX after this, but please come and visit us downstairs at the booth. We'd be happy to answer any questions about recruitment or the studio in general. And that's pretty much it from us. Thank you very much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we'd love to take any questions you've got. Okay. You just got to hop up to the microphone stand and give us your worst questions.
Just looking at the leader system you've got up there, I'm kind of instantly reminded of Command & Conquer Generals from back in sort of 2003. You mentioned MOBAs as well before, but were there any... was that an influence? I know it's a long time ago. And if not, were there any other influences that kind of inspired these decisions?
Want to take that one?
Yeah, so definitely Generals. I think there's probably not a designer in the team that hasn't played Command & Conquer Generals. We love it. I used to have games of that back when I used to have to bring my PC to someone's house to play it properly. It's the way Generals did that really nicely was taking a similar approach, a core army, and then layering a leader which affected that on top. We definitely liked that. MOBAs have really shown that players like taking a character and making it their own. So, being known for playing a certain leader or a character is something we'd like to really push. As for any of the references, I think there's a lot of games these days that take that very character-driven approach. So pretty much anything that's character-driven really has really pushed us in that direction.
Cool, thanks.
Hi. There's so much content in Halo Wars 2, but what does the future look like? What are you planning with DLC and sort of stuff like characters, like new units, or what are you looking at, or is that all like secret?
Sure. That's a good question. We've started to release our first DLC, right, with Kinsano, and that was a strong focus on a leader. And that is our plan moving ahead, is to continue releasing new playstyles, and also to continue growing out the factions and the armies and things like that. So yes, it's definitely a leader focus. We've got something coming every month, and we're really excited to be able to also use that to just constantly be improving the game. We've also, with Kinsano, we released Season 1 of our ranked session, and you'll be seeing regular season updates as well.
Thank you so much.
The nice thing about these, or just to continue that a little bit more, the leader-based DLC thing is really nice. We considered the best way that we can support the game after launch, and with the leaders, it's nice because you could buy a leader, for example, but your friends who don't buy that leader can still play with you. You can still matchmake online in the same pool, and we don't have to have a pool of have and have-nots. It's a really nice system. Sometimes with map packs, for example, for games, you can find you're splitting your user base, and we didn't want to do that. That's all. So as for future content, sorry, keep on going. We're monitoring the game. We watch the forums. We jump on Reddit when we can allow it. And we're trying to listen to what gamers want. There's loads of people enjoying the game and streaming it, making YouTube videos, which is great. So we're really watching what they're saying and what they want the game to be. And when we do release the DLC leaders, we try and get a balancing patch in alongside that as well. So we're keeping the game fresh. We're trying to ensure the meta's not settling too much into exploit territory. It's very much a live game that we're looking to support as much as possible.
Awesome. Thank you.
You might not be able to tell me as design people, but what was the budget of Halo Wars 2, and compared to the budget for developing the game, what was the budget for marketing like a AAA game like this?
I don't think we can answer that question.
Nothing.
It's way above my pay grade, unfortunately.
Not even to the nearest 10 million, perhaps?
No, as designers, we're pretty much given a brief to solve a particular problem or do a particular task. That kind of stuff lives in the realms of executive producers, the people working with 343, those kind of guys. So unfortunately, it's way above our heads.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. So, me and a friend of mine has been a fan of Halo for a long time, though we kind of didn't like, with story and stuff like that, the direction Halo went with 4 and 5. And I've been a little bit scared then to look at Halo Wars 2 due to the fact that I really love the Total War series and I'm a big fan of Creative Assembly. I was scared that stuff would go wrong. So by story and stuff like that, in Halo Wars and from 1 to 3 we had the Flood. Are we going to be, and I haven't looked at Halo Wars, I don't know if they're there. Are the Flood in Halo Wars 2, and if not, are you going to add them?
So that is not something that we are at liberty to comment on.
Okay.
But there is really cool stuff coming, so
There
just
is.
keep your eye out. Like,
Okay.
Yes,
we do Halo Waypoint updates, which talk about new DLC releases, new content releases, so keep watching Waypoint. There's some cool stuff coming, trust me.
we are continuing to develop the story as well, so definitely keep an eye on Halo Waypoint.
Okay, thanks.
Controller versus keyboard. Have you done anything to kind of level it out this time around, or which is the preferred method?
Do you want to start with this?
Yeah, so Halo Wars 1 started off as a Xbox 360 only title, which is all about the gamepad. It was known for the console game that tackled RTS controls on a console successfully. They have a very strong control scheme. So what we've tried to do with Halo Wars 2, because we've been developing for both Xbox One and PC as well, ensuring that we're retaining that immediate and strong control on Xbox One by iterating a little bit on the design of the key binding layouts on gamepad, for example. So there are a couple of changes. It's not the same as Halo Wars 1. We've tried to make some improvements. We've brought on control groups on consoles, which are really, really useful. We have, what have they changed to me? we did a lot of work on our stickiness system. So it's one of these kind of systems that you're never going to see on the front page of a magazine, but it's one of these look and feel mechanics that players really understand when they're playing the game. So when you're slightly moving your crosshairs over units, it's just how much it sticks to those units. So we've done a lot of work at taking the code base that was there for Halo Wars 1 and really expanding that and improving the gamepad design as much as possible. So when it comes to PC controls, we're almost all PC gamers at Creative Assembly. We play consoles as well, but we know what it takes to make good PC RTS controls. So we took references from all of the top RTS games out there, so StarCraft, some Company Heroes, Warcraft 3, for example, and tried to integrate that into a control scheme for PC, which was intuitive to new players and haven't necessarily played an RTS game. So things like using WASD for camera controls is something that if you played an FPS, sorry, you can jump straight into it and move the camera around, which is it's your initial barrier to entry. So if you can do that, things are all good. With PC as well being mouse-based, you can do a lot of gameplay with just the left click and right click of the mouse, which is fantastic. We're looking to iterate on our PC controls as well. So we know it's not perfect. There are a couple of things we'd like to change and improve. So these will be released in free updates for everyone that owns the game already. And we want feedback as well. So if there is a system or a feature you guys enjoy from other games that you don't have in Halo Wars 2, let us know. We're always listening.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
All right.
Any
Any other questions? No?
Cool. Thank you very much, guys.
Run back.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you mostly to Dan and Cassie for their talk on Halo Wars 2. A reminder to everyone here that we do have another session coming up, a kind of surprise session on the schedule. It's a Mafia 3 session about how 1968 inspired the game, the story of the year, how it inspired the story of the game. So that's coming up at 5 and for people on Twitch. I keep pointing to the ceiling. I know they're not up there. But to all of you, thank you. Enjoy the rest of Rezzed. And yeah, thanks from us.